All right, welcome to the first episode of Inside MNU Athletics. I'm Sports Information Director Chad Jenkins. I'm joined by new football coach Paul Hansen. Thanks for coming on the show, Paul.
Hey, thanks for having me.
This is the first podcast that we've ever done, so we don't know what we're doing, and so we're new, you're new, and it should go perfectly smoothly because we're professionals. All right, so first of all, this is our very first podcast. We wanted to start with a new football coach. Tell us about how it's going so far. You came in, you tell us how you got here and when you started and all that.
That's good. Yeah. Got hired the day before the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. And so the year started off really good. Got the call the night before the Super Bowl. Then the next day, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. And then the next day, it was announced. So I got out here by the parade time, and it was going really good for about a month there and did off season and all that. And then, the COVID showed up and shut us all down. So
right.
that was year started off so good, and now we're finally here back and ready to go. Been at it here for about a week and a half now, and with 2 days, and I already had one scrimmage already, so it's going really well.
Good. So speaking of COVID, everyone has gotten back to school here in the last couple of weeks. We've been practicing for a month or so. How has that gone, and what are the procedures that you guys have in place?
Yeah. This year definitely looks unlike any year I've ever had as a coach. There's not really a playbook for it.
Right.
We're still learning as we go here, some things that we need to do better. But as far as the thing about football is everything's kind of a process and time management and all that and how we do things. So we've done a really good job of kind of rotating our guys to the locker room and making sure the temperatures are took and through position meetings and team meetings and make sure we're keeping social distance. And so it's been a little different at times because in practice I try to set it up to where we're 9 to 10 minutes, new segments, so we're not always by each other. So it's been a process, but we're getting there.
Okay. How did you hear about MNU? What did you take us through your whole football life? We got a whole plenty of time here, so start from Pee Wee League. How did you get here?
Well, it shouldn't be too long. I haven't had much of a football career, but no, I graduated high school 2001 at Park Hill High School. It's up on the Missouri side, up by the airport.
And that's where you're from originally?
Yeah, I moved here in 1990. Moved here from Oklahoma, so I spent most of my schooling here in the Kansas City area. And I played my 4 years at Park Hill High School, and kind of towards the end of my senior year, I had a pretty good senior year, and so I started getting some college interest from a lot of schools.
And what was your position?
I was wide receiver.
Okay.
Yep, wide receiver, and so had a decent career there towards the end, and I started getting some looks. I was like, man, I could play at the next level. And I had a youth pastor who was really influential on my life, and he went down to CBC. It was a private school down in Springfield, Missouri, and he knew a lot about Evangel, and so he kind of got them kind of talking to me a little bit. And at the end of the day, that's where I chose to go there and play 4 years of football there. And through those times, those are the John Booth days here where we had some straight out just fights, on the football field and some really, really good games.
How did you do against MNU those years? Those were some good years for MNU.
Yeah. So I think we were pretty split even.
Okay.
But we were pretty good. Minerva was pretty good those times.
Right.
So we had some really good games. So it was good.
All right. So you go to Evangel, and how did you get into coaching?
Yeah, it's funny. I got my degree in physical education, and I didn't want to coach then. And then when I got out, I was, I'm not coaching. I don't like this. And so I was actually in pharmaceutical sales for a year. And my wife still had another year at Evangel. And so I was just kind of working. And then Dick Rippey, who was a really good assistant basketball coach there for Coach Jenkins down at Evangel.
Steve Jenkins, the basketball coach.
Yeah, Steve Jenkins. And he had called me and said, hey, my son needs a middle school football coach assistant for the B team. You want to do it? I was like, yeah. I was newly married, making $750. So I was like, yeah, this is big money. And so I loved it. And at that point, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. So from there, that next year, they made me a head coach of the middle school. And I just kind of moved all the way up at that point. And so it was really good.
Great. You spoke of a youth pastor earlier. Tell us your faith story. What's your testimony?
Yeah, I grew up. My grandpa was a pastor, and so it kind of had that background just from the time I was born. I've always been in church, and I've always been active in the church. My grandpa actually now is since 1990, he's been the sheriff chaplain for Shawnee County in Topeka, and so and he's been doing it all these years, and so I've always kind of grown up in church, and I was involved in church, the youth group, and all that. So I was both in. I was involved in that. I was also an athlete too.
Right.
So I tell our guys all the time, I believe you could do both. You could be both in. So
right, and that's kind of my story as well. I was the church kid, but also the athlete, and the only church kid on the team most of the time. And so, I mean, it's no joke being the only guy to not be cussing or not be going to the parties and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So what was that like for you? Were you one of a few? Were you the only guy?
I was few. There was not a lot, and also I was in the band. So I was knocking all three of the categories off there. So
right.
That's my personality. I kind of hung out with everybody,
right.
and I worked along with everybody too. So I got along with the band people, the church people, and the athletes. And so that's just kind of my personality.
That's an eclectic group, and the world needs more of you, basically, because someone who can get along with all three of those groups is pretty rare.
Yeah.
How did you and your wife meet?
Yeah, so we met at Evangel, and it's kind of a really crazy story. 2004, I was returning a punt for Graceland, and I took it and went to the left, and man, they just had this blue tarp over there, which it was concrete underneath. They threw it over, and man, I got hit out of bounds, and I landed on my wrist. And I broke my wrist, and so at that point, I was out for the season. I ended up having surgery and all that. So I started running into my wife, Joanna, at all the times I'd be at practice when I was doing rehab, and then we started talking. And then
what was she doing there?
She was undergrad. She's a physical therapist now, but she was kind of getting her undergrad in that and going through that track.
So she was like a athletic trainer type?
No, we just always run each other. It's kind of weird. So I make the joke that she pursued me, but I definitely pursued her during that time. Had a little bit more downtime with a broken wrist and a cast on. So
she could take care of you. That's a good way to go.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So now that you've been in Kansas City for this area for how long? Just since you started here?
Yeah. So in February, I got the job on a Monday. I was here by Wednesday, so I made that 17-hour drive here. And I called every recruit I could on the way, and I got to Albuquerque, and I was already done because I already went the list. That's that long of a drive.
Wow.
So
yeah, that's right. Where were you before you got here?
Yeah,
Let's go through that.
Yeah. I was in Silver City, New Mexico, at Western New Mexico University, Division II school there, who competes in the Lone Star Conference, a lot of the schools in Texas.
Okay.
Yep.
And what was your position there? Head coach or defensive or offensive coordinator?
Yeah, I was offensive coordinator there. Yeah.
So you're an offensive mind,
yeah,
I imagine, but you can get along with everybody. So what's your coaching philosophy? How do you incorporate the defensive side of the ball as an offensive minded guy?
Yeah, I think a big thing for me is I just want to see us compete and play fast. That's my biggest thing. And I think if you ask any of our guys right now about practices and all that, that's how it is. All of our practices are just real fast, a lot of competition, and because at the end of the day, you're always going to have a winner or a loser, you know, and that's what's going to happen on Saturday. So, and so that's one big thing I would say is just competing and playing fast. And man, that's what you want in this game of football. Guys who are not thinking, they're just going and playing.
Right.
Because so much about football is reaction time, and when you're not thinking, you just go fast, man. You can really have an advantage over your team.
It's true. You don't want athletes thinking too much. That is a definite thing to say.
Yeah.
Who's your biggest influences when you were a player? Who was the guy that really stands out as the person who influenced you the most, took you under his wing, whatever it was?
Yeah, I'd say definitely my youth pastor for sure. He kind of got the job on my 16th birthday, and so there was just already a connection there that I kind of knew him before. So he was someone that always, it didn't matter how bad of a day I was having or how good I was or wasn't. He was consistent and just telling me, hey, you can do this, and been just really pushing me to the things that he thought I should do. So,
was he a football guy or he's just the influence as a youth pastor?
Well, he's a Kansas Jayhawk fan, so he's probably not a big football guy.
No,
he likes sports though.
Right.
Yeah, so he was a sports. He liked it having in a youth group someone that was was an athlete and did a lot of things. So he really liked that as well.
And who has taken you under their wing as a coach and influenced your coaching style and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think in the coaching world, I don't think it's just specifically one. I think I have a lot of coaches that I'm always talking to and bouncing ideas off.
Yeah, go ahead, go through them.
Oh,
who are they
yeah.
from the time you were at Evangel to New Mexico and all through that?
Yeah, I think my head coach at Evangel, he's my position coach as well. Scott Metcalf was someone that was really inspirational to me, and just teaching me the game
Right.
and seeing it differently than just a normal Saturday football game. One of my actually good friends is Coach Chuck Hepla at Evangel. He's been one of my biggest supporters and someone I can bounce an idea off all the time. He actually coached my wife in middle school.
Oh,
and
wow.
So, yeah, when she was in 7th grade. So that's probably
In what sport?
That was basketball.
Okay.
So I mean, she was a defensive specialist, and so she would tell you that too, that she had a lot of fouls. So it probably
Right.
drove Coach Hepler nuts. But he's someone definitely for sure that has had a big impact.
Is he the head coach there now?
Yes.
Okay. Now the last few years they have really been on an uptick, and they've taken it to us a couple times too.
Yeah.
So, what has he, what is he saying about MNU and you taking the job? And they're really on an upswing, big time.
Yeah. No, I'd say he's very supportive in this profession. You got to be supportive of each other, and because you never know down the road if you might need help or you might be able to help them. And so never burn a bridge with anybody.
No.
And so you're always helping. But this profession, it's such a close group of guys and coaches, and kind of being, because he graduated from Evangel and so did I. So at all these conventions, over all these years, we've been real close and just bouncing ideas off each other. So it's been good.
Great. Who is your favorite football coach outside of people that have had direct influence on you? Who's the guy that you look at?
Yeah. I think from a little kid, one guy was Mari Schottenheimer.
Okay.
I was very lucky. My dad kind of got to know him a little bit.
What was their connection?
So my dad was air traffic controller for many years. That's when we moved here up at the airport. And Marty actually had his own plane. And so my dad, in the early 90s, gave him a tour of the tower and got to know him. And so we would go to training camp all the time as a kid.
Wow.
And so Marty would give us field passes. So my dad's when we're coming, we get field passes. So as a kid, I mean, that's why I coach today. That's why I love football, because as a kid, I was in the end zone catching the field goals from Nick Lowry and all these guys growing up. And I was up at River Falls the summer that Joe Montana, Marcus Allen all came to town. Derek Thomas.
So the Chiefs are your team? Have they always been your team?
Yeah. We had season tickets to the 90s. I mean, we were there 3 hours before the game, tailgate, and then another hour afterwards till the parking lot cleared.
Sure.
It was that type of. We crammed in a big motorhome. I mean, it was that kind of thing.
So what was your Super Bowl experience? This year, I'm not a Chiefs guy. I'm a Fairweather Chiefs guy. I'm not from here. I'm a Bears guy.
Yeah.
But certainly living here, this is my 14th year now.
Yeah.
I've certainly joined the team. My kids are all Chiefs fans.
Yeah.
How can you not love Mahomes and the whole team and Reed and everything? But for a lifelong Chiefs fan, go through that day for you. What is that like? I'm a Cubs guy.
Yeah.
So it was I had a long wait, and Chiefs fans have had a long wait. So I know what this is.
Yeah. Well, for sure. For one thing, I've never experienced it, so I didn't really know how to handle it. Like, I've never gone into Super Bowl kind of, knowing who cheering for someone I wanted to really win,
right,
because I've never got to experience that. So all my buddies laugh at me who are not Chiefs fans, but it was just an awesome moment, and getting to see that. I got to see the Royals. I was living in Texas at the time when the Royals won the World Series, and so now I've finally got to see both the teams that I grew up watching. Bo Jackson hit home runs,
right,
and seeing all these guys come here and finally get to experience that is pretty cool experience. So I told my family I could go happy now.
Absolutely.
If I fall over dead, I'm totally good now. So I've seen it all. So
my kids are the same way. My son was 7 or 8 or so when the Royals made it to the World Series the first time in 14. And then I'm like, man, you're so lucky. Your team, your hometown team, he was a month old when we moved here. So he was watching the Royals every night that year. I would make him go to bed at 9 or so. I would tape the game. He would be up at 3 o'clock in the morning watching the Royals and loving those guys. And he goes to Game 7 of the World Series. And I'm like, man, you're so lucky. You have no idea. I'm a Cubs fan. We never do anything. We're terrible,
Yeah.
Then the next year, his team wins it.
Yeah.
and 15. Like, man, little punk, you know. I was like
Yep.
angry at my son
Yep.
for being, you know.
Yeah.
Now his second favorite team was the Cubs because Daddy loves the Cubs, right?
Yeah.
And now they're being good. The next year, the Cubs win it all. So his teams go to the World Series and lose, win 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Then his football team wins the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
These kids, man, no idea what the struggle is,
Yeah.
right? I'm 42 now, and for those first 38 years, whatever it was a constant just weight on your back, like you're never going to win. And Chiefs fans
Yeah.
and Royals fans were going through the same thing
Yeah.
for years. So
Well,
it's
the joke with COVID is, you know, the Chiefs were in the first Super Bowl. Now they were
Yeah.
just in the last one. If we don't get this off, this next one. So it's
Right.
kind of a joke. So
that's right. Like it's like they sold their soul for,
Yeah.
for the Super Bowl.
that's right.
What coach outside of football do you look up to and admire?
You know, someone like a Greg Popovich or someone like
Yeah.
that. I mean, all those coaches are really successful, have a lot of things in common, and they're all about the process and just doing what's best for the team. I'm really big on that.
Right.
And you look at someone in the coaching profession, especially football, and there's a lot of turnover, a lot of moving. So when you see a coach that's been there for so long, it's had so many different championships, a lot of success. It's really impressive.
Yeah.
A lot of what those coaches do.
As a member of the media, sort of, I kind of get annoyed with his treatment of the media, but
Yeah.
I also, as someone who appreciates humor, I also love it. So
Yeah.
I love
Oh, yeah.
Pop too. It's
Oh, yeah.
great. And I grew up in Chicago with the 90s Bulls.
Yeah.
So Phil Jackson has been my guy to look at as someone who can get all those different personalities together. And how do you do that as a coach? I was an assistant baseball coach. I love coaches.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know I could never be a head
Yeah.
coach. And so I've been an assistant a few times in baseball. And the ability of head coaches to bring people together like that is something I've always admired.
Yeah.
Is it something that you can just do, or do you have to constantly think about it?
Yeah, I think I'm different than some coaches. I think a big thing is trust. And if you come to the locker room, you see me, I'm right there next to players. I'm going all the different lockers. I'm talking to the guys, getting to know them, and there's a trust factor there. And I think your kids, they play even harder for you once they trust you and
Right.
they know, hey, coach got my back. And that's one thing I believe a lot of coaches, especially today, sometimes they miss out on. You know, of really connecting with your guys and getting them to trust you, because when the game's on the line, if they know coach got your back, you know, they're going to go through the wall for you, and that's
Right.
something that's really big.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so you are a Kansas City guy. Your Chiefs, Royals. Who else? What other sports do you watch? Who are your teams?
I mean, those are majority of my teams. You know, growing up, I get a lot of Lakers stuff. I have an aunt and uncle lives in LA, so
Yeah.
I get a lot of Lakers stuff. I had the California Raisins Sunshine Lakers shirt or whatever as a
Right.
kid that they made me wear. So I had a lot of Dodger stuff too, just because they just naturally look like the Royals. So I get that stuff and know a lot. So
Nice.
I had a really good friend too, that he actually was driving in NASCAR for a long time, and then he was killed in 2000 in a wreck in New Hampshire.
In NASCAR?
Yeah, Kenny Irwin Jr. He was
Wow.
the Texaco 28 car. But so we go to a lot of races too.
How did you know him?
So my grandparents, who was a pastor, they lived in Indianapolis, and next door to them lived Kenny Irwin Jr. And so as a kid, they'd take me around the neighborhood in the go-kart. And so he came up through all the series, the truck series and all
Right.
that. So, you know, I grew up next to that kid, and the Indy 500 and all that. So we like to go on those races too. So
Wow.
it's a lot of fun.
Tell me about your kids. You've got 3 daughters?
Yep, 3 daughters.
So what are their ages? What are they into?
Well, my 3-year-old's into everything, but
Right.
9, 7, and 3, all daughters. I'm part of the X-Men club. No Y chromosomes in our family, so all girls at home, and so that's why it balances out with the football team. Having
Absolutely.
120 guys, so it's really good. They're really big into soccer. My 2 oldest are big into soccer, and basketball is kind of their thing right now.
Your wife was a basketball player, so that kind of
Yeah.
influenced?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We'll see if my second one might be the basketball player. We'll see though. We'll see how that works. And then my 3-year-old, she just likes to do everything in the world. She's kind of she's my wild one. So, but she did do a little summer league here with with the Toka Soccer Club here locally, and so she did a little junior club with them this summer. So,
what is your life like outside of football? And I mean, I assume that's taken up by family time, but with COVID, you've been home this whole time.
Yeah.
What are you missing with COVID? What do you usually do? Are you a movie guy? Do you NASCAR? What, all this stuff?
Yeah, it's football. I mean, like
right.
We've moved 7 times since 2012. And so we've moved all across the country, and it's really been for my job and for football. In a matter of a day, I went from college football coach to homeschool teacher to stay-at-home dad during this COVID thing. So I was kind of saying a joke that, this is the only time I've spent so much time with my kids and for so long every single day. Like, I'm never going to get that again. So
right.
We just did a lot of fun stuff together. My wife was working a lot during that time. She was very fortunate to keep her job. So
what does she do?
She's a physical therapist.
You said that already. I remember that.
Yep. And so she's able to keep her job, thank goodness, and all that. So that was really good.
Well, I'm thankful for physical therapists. I tore my quad over Christmas break, and I've been in physical therapy since then. So it's been 7 months. So physical therapists are trying to get me back on the mend. I was going to ask. Oh, behind every football coach is a supportive family, it seems.
Yeah.
Either that or it all falls apart.
Yeah.
So you seem to have gotten it together. Do they resent football at all? Are they sick of it, or do they like, this is what Daddy does and we love it and we love the guys and all that? How does that go? How's that dynamic?
When you're a football coach, football family, you're part of that family. And there's obviously times where it's like, hey, can we just not do football or and I try to do a good job when I get home to put my phone away, because I could work on that thing all the time.
Sure.
During this self-quarantine time, everyone's like, hey, how do you handle work from home? I'm like, well, I'm always working, so this is like easy for me. So trying to manage that a little bit is big. I'll definitely make sure that we try to go on a trip here and there and just kind of get away, so I'm not always working. But the girls love it. They love, you come out to my practice, you'll see them run around out there. They'll be watching. My wife will. In a normal year, we'd have everyone over our house for dinner, but we can't really do that this year.
Right.
But, that's something that we like to do, and just make it really about family, because that's the end of the day. If you're going to spend so much time with each other, you might as well like each other. Or if not, your life is miserable. Right. So I think that's really important.
I've got 4 kids, 12, 10, and 10, I think. I don't know their ages anymore, but we've adopted 2, so that's why the ages are jacked up. But I've got 4 kids right within that 4-year span there. And we've been spending all day, every day together for the last months. And it's, yes, you get on each other's nerves, but it's also brought us together and made us stronger, I think. So it can be a good thing. All right, this next segment, I want to switch into Media Day. And so Media Day is when we record the coaches talking about their teams, and then that section goes out on YouTube, and it'll be kind of separate from the podcast. But we're kind of combining things today. And people on the podcast listening want to know about your team also. So 2020 MNU football with brand new coach Paul Hansen. What do you know about your offensive positions, defensive positions, special teams, the conference, the schedule? Go ahead and let's start with the offense. What do you got going this year?
Yeah, for sure. So this is one thing that not having spring ball, it's been kind of difficult, but we did a good job of recruiting and bringing a lot of guys in. We have a lot of new faces on the offense this year. So really during camp, it's a lot of competition, kind of like I've kind of talked about, and trying to see who can do what. We'll have another scrimmage this weekend, and we'll be able to see kind of where everyone's kind of come into play. But, offensively, just kind of looking at a couple positions. Offensive line, we have a couple guys coming back that started last year, Sam Davis and Robert Hernandez on the offensive line, so that definitely helps. Kind of speak about our offense, it definitely goes to Jair Manning, our running back. And so I'm looking for him to have a huge year this year. He's a great runner, and I feel like in this offense too, he's going to do a really good job of doing the things we need him to do to move the sticks. And I'm really, really excited about him. We have 2 quarterbacks coming back that both played last year. We have Levi Taylor and Blake Atkins, and right now they're really good, kind of picking up a new offense. And so their attitude every day, they've brought it, and so that's what we need. And so that competition is going really good right now, so I'm really excited to see where that ends up. And then really receiver-wise, I mean, we brought in a lot of receivers this year. You know, we only have one guy that actually has much playing experience coming back, and that's Kobe Harden. He was a running back last year, but we moved him to slot receiver. And so that's someone that's going to be a great player for us in our offense. And just a lot of young guys, receivers coming in. They have a couple of transfers, but we're really excited to see where that pans out.
So it's big, a ton of turnover since last year with coaching, with players. How does the defense look this year with returning guys and new faces?
Yeah, well, Coach Novak is back, and I told him as long as we have shutouts every week, we'll be pretty good. So
that's an easy
20 points this year. So, no, man, I tell you, start with their defense. We have several guys coming back from last year, and we want to start up front. You have Jalen McQueen and Denzel Mena and Gage Colton. You have 3 seniors coming back there on the defensive line. That really excited about to see them, what they do. I think they're great players, and really to hold the line of scrimmage will be really big. At the linebacker position, you got Jackson Burke back, and I tell you what, I think he's gonna have an unbelievable year, and I think he at the end of the year, I think he should be able to be at the top of the conference as far as a linebacker and tackles and all that. Jonas Pippett, another senior linebacker. We have a lot of linebackers that are seniors,
right?
And so he's having a really good camp right now. Phil White, another linebacker. Tanner Samples having a really good one. Reese Portugal. So that competition right there is going to be very interesting to see how that pans out. But we have a lot of depth there, and
looks like upperclassmen depth too.
Yeah,
right?
It's huge. You got to have you. At the end of the day, you want to play juniors and seniors,
right?
So that competition's been very, very good. And Coach Benton, he's a coach that I brought with me from Western New Mexico. He's their position coach. He's also a special teams coordinator.
Vinique Benton.
Yeah, okay. Vinique Benton. So he's done a really good job of getting those guys ready to play at that position and really elevate that position, make them even better players. And on the back half, we have several guys coming back as well. At corner, you have Wesley Smith, senior corner, played a lot last year. I think he's going to have an unbelievable year. And then Jackson Malone's another corner that's playing really well right now. He's doing really good. Josh Guerrero, someone that's had some playing time last year on the back half. And so we really have a lot of pieces on the back side that we think that we can do well with. And Coach Novak does a great job with those guys on the back side too.
Great. Special teams?
Yeah. So Pablo,
right.
Pablo's back. We were just kicking the other day. He was drilling them from 40, 45 easily. So
Pablo Pereira, the punter and kicker, right?
Yeah. Well, he's just going to be a kicker. Yeah.
Okay.
Phil White will be our punter.
That's right.
Yeah. Phil White will be our punter. But
Pablo punted for the little promo video that I did. That's what confused me.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. Well, I told Pablo that means I only have to get the ball now to about the opposite side, about 30, 35. So right. we're money for field goals. So no, obviously we want to go a little farther and score some points. So, but it's been really good on that side. Coach Bent, like I said, is the special teams coordinator, so he does a really good job with all those guys.
Great. All right, 1 second. We'll pause. What is? All right. So now what? We're still being recorded on that podcast page, right? Okay. So can we still film? That part's still going. All right, that's all I care about. All right, so we're good. We'll cut that part out. Or we'll leave it in. We show warts and all around here. All right, your schedule, you start September 12th. That is what, 3 weeks?
Yeah, about 18 days here, coming up pretty fast.
We start with William Penn. The first couple games of the season were wiped out from COVID. So September 12th, William Penn. We're still not quite sure, fans, where that will be played, either ODAC or CBAC. It depends on kind of what the high schools do. So keep in mind that game could be at CBAC. The rest of the home games will be at ODAC, and you might not be able to go anyway. We'll figure that out as well. So what do you know about these first few games? Penn, Peru, and Clark are your first 3 games, 2 of them at home.
Yeah, yeah. So William Penn, I mean, they do a great job there. Coach Hefner's been there for a while now, and I was at Western New Mexico, and Eastern New Mexico is our kind of rival school. They run the triple option, and they do it so well. It's the same thing with William Penn. It's a system that they run, they know well, and it takes a lot of discipline to stop them. So we're going to have a really good game plan on the defensive side and ready to slow them down.
And Peru does that the next week too, right?
They do.
They still do that?
They have a new head coach.
Oh,
and so
we don't know what we're getting.
Yeah, so the head coach, he was at Lyon College, and so I believe he's taking a lot of the same stuff he did there up there with them. So they might be in a new system kind of going forward. So we'll go up there and play them. And new head coach. I'm a new head coach in the conference with no spring ball, so it's going to be very interesting what that game looks like. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
And so, how does that work? After on Monday or whatever, you've got the game film from Peru's previous week. They've got your game film, and you just start there. You've got 5 days to prepare for a team.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, especially this year.
Right.
Yeah, with the new staff and all that. So there will be just kind of a lot of just looking at that game and what they did, and look at the stats and see who some of the key players are, and kind of build a plan off that.
Wow. So you're getting thrown right into the fire. And
oh,
then
yeah.
At Clark, second-year program, but they did get a couple wins last year, I think.
Yeah.
So it's not just a cakewalk game. And then after that, Culver Stockton, who I don't think we've ever lost to them. So no pressure there. Going to Culver for your first game, never lost to them. But they are also on the upswing. They won 3 or 4 games last year. Usually it's 1 or 2 for them. Do you know anything about them? How do you prepare for teams like that?
Yeah, like we were talking about, playing juniors and seniors is big. Well, that's one thing they're going to be doing this year is playing a lot of juniors and seniors. Having a quarterback back, a lot of offensive line back will be huge for them. And so that's a long drive, long overnight trips that we'll have to be ready for. And so we'll have to have our guys ready for that game. That definitely is going to be a tough game, and so we'll have to be ready for that.
That takes care of the northern part of the schedule. Not bad that a schedule break gets you out of Grandview, which has been a tough game for us since they've been in the conference.
Yeah, for sure.
But we don't want to shy away from teams, but it's not the worst thing in the world to avoid that game.
Yeah.
The South, though, is loaded. Baker, Evangel, Benedictine Valley, and CMU. What do we know about these teams? Start with Baker.
Yeah,
that's homecoming and the big rivalry game.
Yeah. I mean, Baker's always really good, and every year we play them, it's a battle,
right?
And it'll be no different this year. So we'll have to be ready for them, and they'll be ready for us. And they have several guys coming back that we'll have to be ready for as well. So it's always, but anytime it's a rival type game, I mean, you could throw records out the window, all that. It doesn't matter. It's just whoever's wants it makes more plays in that game.
And then your homecoming basically is Evangel on the 24th. What is that? What do you anticipate that being like for you?
Yeah, no, it's going to be a little different. I have not been to many Evangel games really over the years because I've always been coaching on Saturdays. So it's their homecoming, and so I'll have a lot of buddies there if they're allowing fans to be there. So that'll be a fun game to kind of go back and see a lot of people. But at the end of the day, we have to go in there and compete with them. We can't make mistakes. We make mistakes versus Evangel, you will lose. And they're a team that is really big on that and get in a key turnover here and there on a block punt or something like that. So we'll have to play a very, very sound game to go in there and beat them.
It was 4 years ago, I think, we hosted them for homecoming on campus. We hadn't been on campus in several years, and they were kicking our butts for 3.5 quarters. And then in the final few minutes, 8 minutes or so, we had to score a touchdown 3 times in a row and stop them 3 times in a row. We did it. Stop, score, stop, score. We need a 2-point conversion with 2 seconds left. And we make the play, throw the ball right into the chest of the receiver, bounces off. We lose homecoming. And there was much gnashing of teeth.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I think we've beaten Evangel once since then, but because they've been really really good on the upswing.
Yeah.
The next week, Benedictine on Thanksgiving, and they've been not Thanksgiving, Halloween. Benedictine's been in the championship game in the recent past.
Yeah.
So what does that game look like? How much do you know about that?
Yeah, I mean, even from the time I played in the conference, they've always been one of the best teams,
right.
And same thing. You can't make mistakes versus them because they have you beat at that point.
And Wilcox has been there for 84 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they run the same system, but
yeah,
it's always effective.
Yeah, and he's a great coach. There's a reason why he's been there for so long. We're talking about coaches staying in one spot, and there's a reason why his program's good. And so they're coached very well. Their OC actually I played against when he was at Benedictine as a quarterback.
Wow.
So he keeps good people in his program, and that's why they have a lot of success. And so they'll do well.
The next 2 games close out the season. 2 road games, Missouri Valley and Central Methodist, both teams that are kind of middle of the pack these days.
Yeah.
Valley used to be right at the top, but it's been down for the last few years. So what do you see from those 2 teams?
I think both those teams are great teams, and you got to bring it every week in the hack. We know that. And so Coach Troth has done a great job there at Missouri Valley. He actually took over my sophomore year when I was at Evangel. We would scrimmage him a lot. And before that, Missouri Valley was kind of up and down, but from that point, he just really took him. And he's been there for a long time. He's done a great job with the program. So that won't be easy game going there to Marshall, Missouri, and playing them. And then Central Methodist, man, they had some good players last year, and so that's not going to be no slouch either. And so we'll have to go there and be ready to go. At that point of the year, a lot of times it's those teams that are more deep in each position because of injuries.
Right.
This year, COVID. I mean, all of it that usually get to those games pretty handily. So we'll have to have a good plan, make sure that we have all the guys in the right spot, and be ready to go and compete.
Nice. All right. A few easier questions here. What is your favorite football movie?
Oh, wow. River Titans is always a good
one,
I think. You can't ever go wrong there. So
no.
It's always been a good movie.
And what are your favorite movies in general? Do you have a top 5 list? Are you a movie guy in general? Do you not care that much?
I like a lot of things. I like a lot of action type movies.
Yeah.
But I'm very big into like comedy type stuff too. So as a kid, I love Dumb and Dumber, all those kind of movies.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff is still really funny to me. So
Dumb and Dumber came out when I was in high school. I think we're similar ages, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that movie has stood the test of time. I think you're right. Speaking of Remember the Titans, and speaking of current climate, that team dealt with race relations in the middle of the South in the 60s when it was so incendiary, and we seem to be in that place today.
Yeah.
And just the other day, another police-involved shooting and riots in Kenosha, where I grew up just a few miles from there.
Yeah.
With a team, especially a team like football, which is very diverse and offense versus defense and personalities and different cultures and backgrounds and everything, how do you square with what's going on in society right now with your team? Is there any kind of divide? Is there any kind of, do you even talk about it? Is it even a thing? Because we work in athletics where it's the ultimate meritocracy, right? If you can play, I don't care what color you are. If you're going to be on my team, I don't care. And that's generally what it seems to be like in athletics. Tell us about what your team is dealing with right now in this climate.
Yeah, I think the one thing about football is you have so many different backgrounds and so many different backgrounds of religion and where I came from and all that. And the thing I love about football is status doesn't matter.
Right.
At the end of the day, because you all have to come together if you want to win. Those people who don't come together, you can't win. And so status is a big thing that it doesn't really matter where you've been from. Let's come together and let's try to do things together. And so one of the things I did really big on my team was I have pack leaders. So I have 12 different pack leaders in my group, and they had to apply to be a pack leader. They had references like a job application.
Okay.
And so we did that in the early spring, right before all this happened. And then I selected the 12 pack leaders. And so in these pack leaders, we have all different kinds of race. We have all different kinds of people from different places, people from overseas, people from Florida, people from Missouri, Kansas, all over the world. And I take my team and I divide it up amongst those pack groups. Okay. And so one of the things that we did is when I announced it, when all this stuff was going on, we had a pack leader meeting just on Zoom, and we were just talking about different kinds of things, just hearing each other talk about this is what I've dealt with, or this is what we can do. And I'm very big on action, so yeah, we want to do all those things, but are we doing it in action? And so we got a lot of ideas from that pack leader meeting. Hey, if we really make change, then we need to go do this.
Right.
Go out and not just talk about it, or just do it for 30 seconds here and there. Like, we need to be very proactive in doing that. So that's one thing I'm trying to push our guys in. We talked about going to do some community hours at the Hope Center. It's not far, and do different stuff like that, and really make a difference in the community and for a longer period of time, and not just like
right.
for a little bit. Oh, I checked in and now we're good now. So I think that's really important.
What were you looking for with the types of guys who could be pack leaders? Obviously leadership skills,
yeah.
but like what else
Yeah.
kind of things?
I think academically, for one, they had to get references, someone on campus, so that was going to be more likely a professor.
Right.
That was one thing. Someone's academically good, discipline within this university. And really, I asked them on those, hey, what's leadership mean to you? And I just want to see what they thought about that and what leadership meant. And it's amazing, you see what everyone's view on leadership is and what it truly does mean to a lot of the different kids. And so that was one thing I was looking for. And through this whole process, it's been great because we've been able to keep most of our kids that have shown up so far. So that has to go back to having good pack group leadership, because they get together and they say, hey, like today they're helping some kids get to the right classroom and all that. So just making everyone feel together and part of the team. And it puts a little bit on their plate too. And then someday when they go apply for a job, well, I was a leader on the football team. This is what
right.
I did. And like we're setting them up for a resume already, and they don't even, a lot of them guys don't even realize it yet. So it's really good.
So what do they do as pack leaders? Do they have host meetings, or is it, how many are under them?
Yeah.
10, 12 guys per?
Yeah, 10 to 12. And then throughout camp, we would say, hey, get your pack group, go meet outside and just go do something together. So some guys would they go get a Gatorade, or they go sit down, they go out out in the open and just sit and just talk about things, and making sure everyone feels comfortable, especially as freshmen, make sure they feel comfortable within the team.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think that might wrap up our first podcast. I'm with MNU brand new head football coach Paul Hansen. I'm Chad Jenkins, and let's call it good.